Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to share with you a few words about this week's Torah portion, Parshat Emor. In this week's Torah portion, Parshat Emor in the book of Vayikra, we get a list of all of our major Jewish festivals. We see all of our greatest hits for the year. We learn about Pesach, about Shavuot, about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Shmini Atzeret. It is always fun to read this Torah portion because it also gives us the commandment to count the Omer. And right now, we are right in the middle of counting the Omer. Surprisingly, though, in the middle of this listing of celebrations, we also get a mitzvah about tzedakah. It's surprising because this verse seems to have nothing to do with what came before it or what comes after it in the Torah reading. Now, we know that tzedakah is not linked to any specific time. We can give tzedakah any time we want to, any day, any hour. However, this verse is situated amongst the verses that talk about the calendar. Not only that, it seems to be a repetition. It seems to be a near exact replication of the teaching that we got from last week's Torah portion. So let me read you this verse. The Torah says, when you reap the harvest of your land, don't reap all the way to the edges of your field, and don't gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am the Lord your God. Why is this here? We know that the mitzvah of peah, the mitzvah of not reaping to the corner of the field, and the mitzvah of leket, being forbidden to collect the stalks of grain that had fallen. We know that they're important mitzvot, but it is simply confusing as to why in this Torah portion it is found and why it is nestled in between the holidays. It comes literally smack dab in the middle. On one hand is Passover and Shavuot, and on the other hand are the fall holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Shmini Atzeret and Sukkot. So our ancient rabbis, in a very early midrash called the Sifra, teach us why it's there. The Sifra teaches, why did Scripture seek to insert these mitzvot in the midst of the festivals, Pesach and Shavuot on one side, and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur on the other? To teach that one who gives leket, which is the grains of wheat that fall out of your arms, shechacha, the forgotten bundles of wheat that are still in the field, and peah, reaping all the way to the corners of the field, and the poor tithe. The midrash continues and says, it is accounted to this person as if the temple existed, and he offered up his sacrifices therein. And one who does not give it, it is accounted to him as if the temple existed, and he did not offer his sacrifices therein. So my whole life, I've always been taught that since the great temple in Jerusalem was destroyed nearly 2,000 years ago, the way that we replicate its service is through prayer, or the symbols on our Shabbat and festive holiday tables. This midrash teaches us something else. These mitzvot of peah and leket, of not reaping the corners of the field, and of not picking up the sheaves of wheat that had fallen, are more than just good things to do. These simple acts are as if we had personally brought a gift to the temple in Jerusalem. And if we fail to do so, it is as if we had the opportunity to offer gifts in the temple, but did not. And what I find interesting is the type of tzedakah that this verse is talking about. It is not the type of intentional tzedakah of planning a charitable gift, of seeing what funds we might want to designate, of choosing an organization we want to support. This is about leket, gleaning. Gleaning is going back and picking up the stalks of grain that had inadvertently fallen out of our own arms as we carried the harvest bounty back home. In other words, leket is grain that we wouldn't have missed in the first place. Going back for it is considered exceedingly miserly, to the point where the Torah is telling the field owner that the grains that have fallen out were not even ours to begin with. They actually already belong to the poor. We're living in a time right now where there's great disparity. Some of us are going through very difficult times financially. Many have lost our jobs. Some of us have not been hit yet by the economic impact of this virus. And it's also a time where many of us may actually have the ability to give the modern equivalent of leket, donating money that we won't miss. I didn't pay for a haircut before Passover like I usually do. I won't likely be paying for one on Lag BaOmer when I usually get the next one. I haven't gone out to a coffee shop for a fancy coffee in nearly 9 weeks. My gas tank seems to last forever before needing to be filled. I'm sure that you are experiencing some of these types of changes in your behavior as well. Yes, our family's spending more on groceries and on utilities from being home. But there are dollars here and there that are the modern equivalent of forgotten sheaves of wheat. By giving those forgotten dollars to someone who needs food this month, it will be as if you and I brought forth the holiest gift possible to worship God. One of the mistakes that we make when we live Jewishly is to slice and dice and separate our mitzvot. We think that prayer and tzedakah live in separate universes. We mistakenly think that there are ritual mitzvot to worship God and ethical mitzvot to repair our broken world. This midrash that I shared with you this morning from the Sifra teaches us, don't think that giving tzedakah is something different than worshiping God through prayer. Dropping your sheaves of wheat and allowing them to be given to a person who needs that wheat more than you do is, in fact, the way that we worship God. Whether you're somebody who likes to pray in a synagogue, whether you're somebody who likes to pray at home, or whether you aren't such a praying sort of person anytime, I wish you and your family a Shabbat Shalom.